Welcome my friends to another video on the Transformers TCG. Today we're going to be taking another kind of weird look at the game, nothing too conventional here. We're going to be taking a look at Deck Building Basics 101, what I should be playing, what staples to look for, pip balance, icon balance, whatever you want to call it, etc. We're going to be taking a look at all of that today. So maybe you just picked up a starter set, or maybe you'll check out deck lists online. You're trying to think about, okay, yeah, I see this is good, but like, what's good in every deck? How should I be constructing decks? How should I be constructing future decks past the starter set? How should I be modifying my starter set, etc.? So that's kind of what we're going to look at today. Thankfully, a really nice thing about this game right now is the starter set gives you most of the staple action cards. So not only do you get them right off the bat, they're also kind of easy to identify because they just put them in your face for you. They do give you some bad ones too, though. So we're going to be mostly looking at the good ones. So the first two cards, we're going to talk about them together. The first two cards I want to talk about are Incoming Transmission and Inspiring Leadership. These are both really simple cards to understand. Inspiring Leadership just lets you draw 3 cards, then you scrap 2 cards from your hand. There's nothing to lose from it aside from just using your action for the turn, and you get to filter and set up. Anyone who has played a card game before, i.e. Yu-Gi-Oh! Graceful Charity, can understand why this is a good card, and even someone who hasn't played a card game before can, kind of grasp the concept of why this is just really, really good. Then Incoming Transmission is the same way. Incoming Transmission just says draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck, so you get to stack your orange pips for attacking, and it's very strong. So these 2 cards, I feel kind of just belong in every deck so far. These are like some of the highest tier of staples in the game right now. Other decks with other kinds of draw power can get away without Inspiring Leadership. Those are more specific cases, but Incoming Transmission, I haven't really made a deck without it yet. Like, it belongs in slow decks, fast decks. Like, it's just good. It's digging. Like, there's really no reason not to play a card like it. So continuing on, some of the most crucial staples here, we have Force Field. Now, this is our first wild card because it's not in the starter set, but this is an upgrade armor that says if the upgraded character would take 5 or more attack damage, you scrap this and the upgraded character takes 4 attack damage. And you're thinking, that doesn't seem like a big change. Well, it is, alright? When Grimlock comes at you with bold 30 and 19 damage, Force Field feels good, man. Like, Force Field is like, I've found is like the basic defense card in the game. Like, I haven't made a deck without Force Fields yet. It always just feels really important, whether you're playing an aggro deck or a defensive deck. Like, this, I feel, just belongs in absolutely every deck, 3 of no matter what. And it's got a white pip, so, not bad. Continuing on that note, we have the Almighty Grenade Launcher. This is a weapon upgrade. It gives you +4 attack, and after the upgraded character attacks, you have to scrap it. So it's just a one-time use, but it's +4 attack. No other weapon in the game gives this much attack. Losing it afterwards is literally irrelevant. Like, minusing in this game isn't a big deal at all. Like, it's +4 attack. This card lets you go big whenever you want. Again, like, it belongs in any deck, I feel. Like, there's no reason any deck should be passing up the opportunity to just play a card as powerful as this. And that's really all there is to Grenade Launcher. After that, we kind of get into more like, just really, really good cards. Like, not necessarily belong in every deck, but like, unless you're playing an alternative or something. So the first card we're going to talk about is Brainstorm. Brainstorm is just an action that says you may play an action, then you play another action. So you get 2 more actions, 3 in total, but only one of them is Brainstorm, so only 2 of them matter. So you're simply just getting 1 extra action, but that's still incredibly strong. Like any deck that has good actions, which is all of them, because all the actions in this game are really, really freaking good. There's so many great actions in this game that you could combo this with. Like, this just gets things going in literally any deck. I guess, like, unless you have like a really, really low hand size fast deck, like maybe you could not play this card, because I could see why it could get cloggy, but otherwise this card is, for the most part, almost always really freaking good. The next one of that regard is Rapid Conversion. This just says flip one of your characters to its other mode. So whatever deck you put it in, read all your flip effects, this has them printed on there now. pretty freaking good. There's really no reason not to play this card. I felt so far like I have built a deck without this card. Like it's not, I don't think it's as staple as these, but at the same time, like I was building that was in a deck that had alternatives or wanted to play like rollout or something like that. Like this card is just really, really strong, and I haven't found a lot of reason not to play it in most of my decks so far, because like brainstorm, it just kind of gets things going. Like I feel like a lot of these are just kind of like luxuries that you can live without, but like there's not really necessarily a reason to, especially if your opponent is playing these same kind of luxuries. So next we have ramming speed. So ramming speed just says scrap an enemy upgrade. Seems really versatile and good, right? Not necessarily a staple, but good, right? Well, force field staple in my opinion, so this is by nature staple because you need to destroy force field. That's kind of the way I see it. This card is kind of also a thing that's been going in most of my decks, except for like decks that have like innate ways to get rid of upgrades. Like obviously I don't play this in like tanks because the Megatron Decepticon Commander is just destroying upgrades whenever he flips. But like unless your deck has an innate way of destroying upgrades, I feel like this card should be in your deck at some capacities, and it's got an orange pip, so I mean it's, you know, it's good. It's good. Next we got some more upgrades to talk about. So the first is Flamethrower. This just says give something bold too. This is kind of just good. Like this is just kind of really good in like every deck I've felt so far. Like it's just bold too. Like if you have even more bold in your deck, it's really good. Like something I've kind of noticed so far in this game is like bold is really strong. Like not nearly as strong as tough because it's much easier to stack. The game kind of feels like it's built on bold and attacking right now. It could change in the future if we see things like spamming tough as much. But like, you know, Grimlock with the Power Sword and Dynachomp and like, you know, bold, you know, 10 and stuff, like nothing reaches like anything past like tough 4 or 5 at most when you're comboing a bunch of cards. So this is kind of just one to like know about. In like it's definitely not on the level of these, but I found that it's going in a lot of my decks. And then two more we're going to talk about at the same time: Improvised Shield and Handheld Blaster. So these cards are just armor and weapons that give tough 1 and bold 1. Not very good, but they have double blue and double orange pips. And so we're going to talk about the pips for a second, the icons. Sometimes, especially if you have a deck focused around bold or tough for that matter, the icons on your cards will be a little more important than the actual cards themselves. No one in their right mind really wants to be putting these cards in their characters for the most part. But that double orange and that double blue for just, you know, that can generically go in every deck is really, really powerful. Now, there are a couple other cards that do have double orange and double blue, and they're also pretty good cards in their own right. And then there's some with 1 orange and 1 blue, and those are also pretty good cards in their own right, effect-wise, not just icon-wise. But at the same time, these can definitely go in just about any deck. Most aggro decks will play this just for the pips, and then for things that can stack them too, it gets even stronger. They'll play all of the cards with double orange pips just so they can be flipping more of them because they're an aggro deck and they have a lot of bold. And a lot of times that will start to matter a lot more than the cards themselves. So that's something to keep in mind when looking at cards, when judging cards, and especially when deck building. You want to have all of your options laid out for you so you can know what you should and shouldn't be playing based on effect and on icon. So that's why these two kind of go together, and I guess they go in a bit of a lower tier, but at the same time I've been playing both of these in most of my decks too. It's just kind of for a different reason, so keep that in mind. Next, we're going to talk about cards that strictly do not necessarily belong in every deck, but are really good power cards if you're just trying to round out any deck or like replace staples for the time being. So the first card, well, we're going to talk about the first 2 cards in case you want to add a little bit of an aggressive edge to your deck. We have Leap into Battle and Supercharge. So Supercharge just says give a character bold 3 for the turn. Leap into Battle just says give a character +3 attack for the turn. Both of these just really good. They pack blue and orange pips respectively. There's nothing ever bad about getting an extra attack in general, or extra bold. They don't necessarily like synergize with anything unless you have like something you really want to be stacking bold on or something like that. But at the same time, they're kind of just good in general. So I would always keep out for these if you're ever looking for if you're ever looking for things to round out your deck, I've been just throwing these in a lot, like based on things I don't have, or just if I'm getting a little experimental, I don't know what I like yet, just some stuff to round out it so I can get a feel for it. The next one we have is Data Pad. So this is a utility upgrade. When the upgraded character attacks, you can draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Now the second part is optional, so this can just be draw a card. But obviously if you have like, you know, something with double orange or something good like that, you want to be putting that on to get some big damage this turn. But at the same time, this card is never really bad by any means. Doesn't really pack too much direct synergy with anything specifically. But again, it's never bad by any means. You can put it in any deck to round it out, and it's just really solid. It has a white pip. It's not bad, you know. And then another one of that nature is Data Bank. This one's a little more specific and a little slower, but I still feel like it's just a solid card that could go in any deck. It's just a utility upgrade that says at the start of your turn you draw a card. So the turn after you play it, it'll just immediately refund itself, and then if it lives any further turns, it just keeps generating you free cards. It's really nice. It's also something that, like, you know, I've kind of just tossed in a lot of decks because it's a really handy thing. Another card I'm going to talk about right now is not necessarily a staple. It's a good power card, but I also want to propose an alternative to it as well. So this is I Still Function. So this is a card that says return one of your KO'd characters with 12 or fewer stars to the battlefield at one, and repair 1 damage from it. So it comes back to life at 1 health. Then at the end of the turn, you KO it. So this seems really strong. Like, to anyone who's played card games before, or who hasn't played card games before, anyone even not very familiar with this game, this just really seems super strong. At the same time, though, it can be slow, it can be cloggy, it has no icons whatsoever, so I think it's balanced by any means. Some of the interactions it has so far feel a little broken, but, you know, that's a conversation for another day. At the end of the day, though, it will bring something back, and you will get an extra attack because of that, which is really, really nice. It lets you get a hit like that. But it is a rare, so it can be kind of hard to come by, so I want to use this opportunity to make a note of a card called Ready for Action. So this is very unlike this, a common, and it is in the starter set, and it just says untap one of your characters that has 10 stars or fewer. So it can serve the same purpose in that they do the same thing, except, you know, before you have to do this before something dies, which is obviously a lot worse. But it can be why you might want, in any deck that like wants to play these but you don't have them, you could very well play these, and it's almost always really, really close to the same amount of being good. They will have no pips too. Like, it's not going to throw you off too much as a budget alternative. So just want to make a little note of Ready for Action there, because it's not a bad card, and it's also something that I've been able to kind of just like toss in decks if I need help rounding out things a little more. So I guess we'll kind of put those two together. That, to be honest, is most of the staples you should be aware of in this game. Obviously, if you're playing like archetype-specific decks, there's going to be staples to look out for. Like, obviously, if you're playing Planes, you want to play Bomb and Run, the action for Planes. If you're playing Insecticons, you want to play Swarm and Bug Bomb, the action, the upgrades that work for Insecticons. So, you know, obviously, those will be staples depending on the deck you're playing. But as far as just on a very generic basis, a lot of these cards are just really good and really solid in their own means for various reasons. Whether it be for their icons or their effects in general, these cards can go in just about any deck. And if you're looking to modify like your starter set, you know, picking up more copies of a lot of these, I think I want to say it comes with 2 of most of these. Picking up more copies of these, I think you should have playsets of these in your collection. Every player should have access to these cards. Again, whether it's for icons, for effects whatsoever, when you're constructing your deck, you kind of want to keep a few things in mind. Like, I found that 10 is probably about as much white icons, as many white icons as you like to play, because you only want to see 1 per battle. And if you have a lot of bold, that could be reduced even more, to be honest, because you have even more chance of hitting at least 1 per battle. After that, they're basically just no icons, because you can only use the white icon once when flipping. So keep that in mind. After that, you probably want a pretty like even split between your oranges and your blues. If you're playing a more aggressive deck, you're obviously going to be trying to pump more blues or more oranges at that point. If you're playing a more defensive deck, you're going to want to pump more blues at that point. You know, it's totally up to you. Unless, of course, you're playing like some of the characters, like I was fanning around, but some of the characters like, you know, Hound, Jazz, Mirage, they have effects when you flip white ones. So, you know, you don't want to flip more white ones in a deck like that. So there's a lot of things you want to take into account, but it's a very good basis to go off of, you know, after you're, you know, picking up decks and starting to modify decks for the first time, or if you're building a deck from scratch, like if you're not getting the starter set, if you're just straight up building a deck from scratch, this will be really good for you. This will definitely show you what you want to be playing in the general majority of decks. You know, after that, like, you know, it's a lot of testing and research and number crunching for yourself, but as a good basis to go off of, that right here, everything I've said is definitely going to give you a good start on the game. That's really about it. Not a lot more to say because a lot of these cards are really, really simple, to be honest. Like, there's not a lot of interactions to talk about here. They're just good. They're just straight up good cards. I hope you guys liked the video. I'm gonna be trying to do a lot more stuff like this because as entertaining as, like, you know, deck profiles and match videos are, I feel like these are kind of the things that, like, the community needs at the moment. You know, a lot of things like this to help people get familiar with cards and decks and concepts and deck building in the game and strategies and stuff like that. So I'm going to be trying to do more videos like this, more like, you know, Transformers TCG 101 videos, if you will. If you guys have any good ideas for ones like that, please let me know in the comments section. You know, I'll take everything into account. If you guys have any criticisms, critiques whatsoever on this video, how it could have been done better, any other videos, please let me know. I'm really looking for a lot of criticism right now to try and improve the channel so I can help improve the community. That's about it, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.